With the video, you just click on that link, you open up a PDF, and then you can either print that out and bring it with you to class to write notes on it, or pull it in an app on your iPad, whatever you need to do. What I'm doing is I'm telling you, Wednesday we're going to be talking about what's in these videos. You don't need to watch the videos, we're doing them in class. But to help you with the class notes, you'll want to get a PDF of the file used in the video. Bring it with you to class. It'll make taking notes a lot easier. I use clickers in this class for participation and for some other things. I've never done it before, so there's going to be some learning with it on Wednesday. Once I feel comfortable with it, then we'll start using it for things like attendance. I'm going to talk more about clickers in just a little bit. For lab, we don't always meet for our labs. And if you want to know whether we're going to meet for lab, you just go to the announcements, you look up at the top, and it says, for this week, we will meet in labs this week. So you know to come to labs. If we're not going to meet, I'll say we will not meet in labs. Because we're going to be meeting in labs this week and taking notes on something, I'm asking you to go to that link. It says download a copy of this file. Either print it out or download it to something and bring it to class to take notes on. Just an efficient way for you to take notes. This is every class peer list. We always start with that. And now I'm going to go through the syllabus. Usually in class, you're handed a syllabus. I didn't do that, and it was very deliberate because suppose we want to change something or you want me to add something. I want it to be one place online, so any changes I make, I'm going to make it red here, and you know you're looking at the current syllabus. Otherwise, you may have this old syllabus from long ago, and you're wondering if we changed anything or not. This way we don't have to worry about that. Now, all these pages that I'm looking at here, this is the class website, and I'm going to show you how to get to it now. I'm not just giving you a link for a reason I'll show you in just a minute. Okay, here's what you'll want to write down. My name is Bailey Norwood. I am so popular that if you just Google my name, Bailey Norwood, my homepage comes up. Because so many other people have Googled my name to get to this webpage. If you just Google Bailey Norwood, my homepage comes up. And then you've got this link that says Seeds for Students. That takes you here. This is the link to actually get to the class website, and the password you use is Bailey Rocks, B-A-I-L-E-Y R-O-C-K-S. B-A-I-L-E-Y R-O-C-K-S. Now right now you don't even need the password to get in, but later on you will. And the reason, I use a lot of videos in class, and some of the videos are copyrighted, so I have to be very careful about exactly how I use them. And to be able to use copyrighted videos for education, I have to restrict entrance into the web page. So that's what I'm doing here. Otherwise, I would just give you a link. And you hit proceed to complete Seeds, and there you are. And this is the web page I use for all my classes. And you're in AggieCon 1114, so you click that. And that takes you here. And there you have the online textbook, we'll talk about in a minute. The lecture plan, the announcements that I had up, that's where you go there. The syllabus, there's the link for it, informational class paper. Do I need to review anything about how to get here? Back to the syllabus. This is very corny, I know, but I do it for a reason. I want you to know exactly when class begins, because otherwise you just keep talking. And I also have another reason. So what we do at the beginning of class, and I'll have this up next time, I say who cares about you, you say Dr. Norwood. You say why does he care, you say we're special, and you say why do we learn for the sake of learning. I do that because I know sometimes you're in a class where you're not appreciated as a student. Sometimes you're treated rudely. And in ag college, we try to make sure that that's not the case. And after doing this, I've had some cases where, in one instance, a young student was assaulted, and she didn't know exactly who to go to. Her advisor wasn't very nice to her, but she thought of me because of this, and so she came to me, and I helped her give me counseling, prosecute the person, things like that. So I do this as my way of daily telling you I'm working very hard for you. I want this class to be a fond memory for you down the road. And then it says, why do we learn for the sake of learning? I know you don't actually learn for the sake of learning. Most of you want your degree very, very bad. The learning, not so important. And I understand, but you will probably find that if you can try to develop an interest in this, it'll make learning a lot easier. But you don't want to learn something, it's so hard to learn. And the one certainly is pretty easy. And at the end of class, way of letting you know when we end, so you know when to start packing your books. I say, what is economics about? You say a pleasant life for everyone. That's my way of reminding you that although we concentrate a lot on wealth, we know that wealth is not the only thing that matters in life. And I say, how does an honest person become wealthy? By enhancing the lives of others. And that may not seem obvious to you at first, but I see some of you on notebooks and iPads and smartphones, and those people didn't make those things for you out of love. They don't know you, they don't care about you. They're trying to make money. But we like those things that they make for us. Apple cannot make lots of money unless they produce something that we want, that makes our lives better. And that's really what economics is all about. You learning to make money by producing things that other people want. Win-win for everyone. And, you know, I know this is important, but I want to show you, I got an email from a student over break. And he was just telling me, thank you. He said, we always joke, never out loud, of course, about those goofy sayings you made us repeat at the beginning of class. But now I realize the method behind your madness. I'm not sure if many other students took them to heart quite like I did, but I can assure you that they made a difference not only in my life, but in mine, and he felt others' brothers, business as well. It took me a while to understand the meaning of we become wealthy by making others around us wealthy. Or used to was a little different back then. But now I do. I do this because I'm trying to, you're going to, just like every other class, you're going to forget almost everything you learned here. But I want at least one thing to stay with you. And if I make you say this in every class, it probably will. I'm just going to briefly talk about some of the things that are on the syllabus. I have things like my website up there, my email address and phone number. If you want to contact me, the best way to do it is by email. I check email regularly. I don't pay attention to my phone a lot. Texting's okay, but I just don't pay much attention to it. It's not many people call me. If you want to make an appointment with me, this may seem kind of tedious and unnecessary, but you know how if you want to meet somebody, sometimes you end up exchanging like 15 emails before you get a time and time. You have this long strand of emails going back and forth. I'm trying to avoid all that. So what I do is if you want to arrange an appointment with me, I've got a link to my calendar. So you can go straight to the calendar and you know when I'm available, when I'm not. And you find a date and time that's good for you and me, you email me that date and time and I'll reply and confirm. We can get it done in 2 emails very quick. Don't have to do it like this, but it can be a lot more efficient. Some details about the course. There is no textbook. All the materials for this class, there's class notes, there's articles I wrote online, and there's a lot of videos online. So everything is for free up there on my class website. You do not need to buy anything at the bookstore. You may want to buy clippers. I'll talk about that in a minute. Some of the homeworks in this class will be done using D2L. And this is not really one class. This is 4 different sections. So in D2L, I wanted to make one section that was really combined everyone. So when you go to do a homework and you go to log in D2L, remember that you don't use your section number. You go back to the syllabus and remind yourself you use the section name AFI. When you go to D2L, there'll be different options for you. One will be like for section 1, log in onto AggieCon section 1. There'll also be the option section AFI. That's the one I want everybody to use in D2L. Every single time you're in D2L, use section number AFI. Hopefully you know when the lectures and labs are. There's one thing that I do require you to have. For your test, part of the test will always be on Scantron. Those orange Scantron sheets. And so I have on the syllabus, you're required to purchase 4 orange Scantron sheets and bring them with you to class. We'll only have 3 of them, and just in case one gets torn, there'll always be someone here who can get some things like that. The clickers, you're going to see this in a minute. Raise your hand if you already have a clicker that you use for classes. Yeah. And it's the one from the Turning Technologies, I presume. Yes, the one that looks like this. This is the one that I'm using. Once I learned that almost everybody's going to make you buy one eventually, I thought I might as well go ahead and use them in this class. So, it can benefit you to buy these clickers. I'm going to take attendance. It can help your grade, but it can't hurt your grade, as you'll see in a minute. The only 2 things that you might want to buy them. One thing you definitely buy them, bookstores, the orange Scantron sheets you may want to buy the clickers. You'll probably have to anyway. Almost everybody here is in the ag college, and you're going to have to take Math Science 12, 13, and you're going to need it for there anyway. This course is being transitioned into a 3-hour course. And you're going to be taking it, it's going to be more kind of like a 3.5-hour course. You'll get 4 credits. But in this transition, we're not going to be meeting all the labs. And the first half of the semester, I'm going to use a number of labs to help you with your paper. The class paper shouldn't be too hard to write if you come to labs and let me work with you. And then the second half, it'll involve something about planning for retirement. And we'll meet other times for labs when I think it's necessary. As far as prereqs for this class, are there any mandatory prereqs for this class? I don't think so. Sometimes they put algebra, math 15, 13. Almost everybody has to take that anyway. There really are no absolutely mandatory prereqs for this class. I do assume that you know you can graph lines and do basic algebra. So it's kind of, one prereq might be like math 15, 13. But even if you didn't take college algebra and you're horrible with math, once we get to the point where we do algebra and do graphing, if you just come see us when you need help, you'll be fine. Can y'all stand up for a minute? You have 2 teaching assistants, Chris Isaac and Kara, what's your new last name? Stevens. These are your teaching assistants. Y'all can sit down. And on the website, I have their office hours. Kara's is 10 a.m. to noon on Thursdays. Chris's is 1:30 to 2:30 on Monday and Wednesday. Tuesday and Thursday from noon to 1 p.m. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be, everything I'm going to use this case for, but I do know this, that they are like another resource for you. When I first started teaching this class, I'd only taught senior level classes. And one thing I did, raise your hand if you're a freshman. One thing I did not realize about freshmen is that sometimes they're terrified of actually going to see the instructor. by the time you're a senior, you don't feel like that anymore, especially if you're in college. Sometimes you're a freshman, you're terrified of seeing the professor. So there's a lot of you who just don't want to ever talk to me. There's something scary about it. But you feel much more comfortable with a TA, someone closer to your age. And so the TAs are a resource for you. When you need help with anything, just go see them during the office hours. If you can't make their office hours, you can email them and see if you can arrange an appointment with them. They'll be helping me doing some grading. They'll be helping me administer homeworks on D2L. And before tests, they usually give optional review sessions. You know, if you need help, there's 3 people, me and TA. It's completely your choice who you go and see. Do know that I've changed a lot of the topics in this class, so there'll be some subjects that the TAs are learning alongside with you. So at some point you may have to be a little patient with them, but they're really smart. And they can figure things out. But most importantly, they're very kind people. I have one absolute rule that can never be violated in this class, and that's that you always treat the TAs with respect. They deserve it. I want them to want to be my TA in the future. So always be nice to them. Be nice to you, that can be very helpful. Okay, the grading. If this is confusing to you at first, don't worry about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail. We're going to spend a little time in class about this. Your first homework is going to be about how the grading system works. Most of the class is very straightforward. There's 3 exams. Exam 1 is 20% of your grade. Exam 2 is 20% of your grade. Homeworks are 10%. Class papers 10%. Then we have this final exam. Its contribution to your final grade will be 20 to 30%. And participation will be 0 to 10%. And this is how it works. If you never ever come to class, or you come to class and don't ever buy a clicker, so I never know you're here, and your attendance is 0, that does not hurt your grade at all. All that means is that your final exam grade will count 30% of your grade. Doesn't hurt you. And the grades in this class are done on an absolute scale. Meaning I don't come in here and say, okay, 15% of class has to be an A. I'm going to fail 5%. No. There are thresholds. Everybody in this class could theoretically get an A. Everybody could fail. It's done on an absolute scale. Now, if you do come to class and you have your clickers, and I know you're always here and your attendance rate is 100%, this is what happens. 10% of your grade, called participation, is 100. In your final exam, only counts 20% of your grade. So the way it works is, the higher your attendance, the less your final exam counts. The lower your attendance, the more your final exam counts. I do this because this class is about learning, not attendance, so I don't want to punish people for not coming. At the same time, I respect hard work, and so I don't mind having a little work. Again, if this is confusing to you, don't worry. We're going to do a homework on it. There's one place on the syllabus where I show you the formula used to calculate the final numerical grade. I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation. I'm going to say, suppose your attendance is 0, and some other stuff, what's your final grade? You have to tell me. Then I say, what if your attendance is 100%? And some other stuff, what's your final grade? You're going to give me that answer. So in your homework, you're going to be doing some numerical exercises to help you understand exactly how that participation thing works. And like most courses, you're going to get this numerical grade as determined by this formula up here. If it's a 90 or above, you get A. So if everybody had a 93, then everybody would get an A. If everybody had a 55, everybody would get an F, and it's done like this. Now, I know that in reality that doesn't really tell you all that much, and what you're thinking about deep inside is, how hard is this course really? How hard is it to get an A? Things like that. This is my best way of explaining it. And there are no guarantees here. But if you are an A student who's made A's throughout your entire life, and you work very hard for an A, and you will cry if you get a B, and because of that you work very hard, you will probably have an A in this class. Maybe there's one or two students who are always accustomed to A who don't get an A. But if you work hard, you can probably get an A. The stuff we do is not hard. There's just a lot of it. There's nothing really, really, really hard in this class. It's just keeping up with stuff. If you are an A/B student, you tend to make just A and B's, you're probably going to have an A and B in the class. There's nothing wrong with this. If you frankly don't care about what your grade is, you just want to get your degree and get out of here, you should be able to pass this course. If you keep up somewhat and put forth some effort, you will most likely pass. The people who fail are the people who just like quit coming to class, or who don't do like any homework, or who don't study at all. This probably won't be your hardest class you take. This isn't like biology. It probably won't be the easiest you take this semester. That's the best way I can try to explain it. But no guarantees. It's almost done. The plagiarism and stuff, every semester I say something about it, but there's always just one or two people who just do something really, really stupid. And you get caught for cheating, and I prosecute you, and we try to get to that F street. We had a student last year who just looked on, I mean, it was just so obvious, and once he saw us looking at him, he knew he was caught. And every year for that class paper, sometimes I provide sample narratives, and I have one student who copies and pastes the same thing that I wrote in their paper, and they get caught for cheating. And every semester, at least one person does this. And if you just think a little, I don't think you'll have a problem. And obviously, just don't cheat. I'm not sure what happened there. But if I do catch you cheating in your paper, like every other class, it's submitted to D2L and it goes through that Turnitin plagiarism check. We're not going to harass you, but during tests we do watch you, and when we see cheating, we do try to prosecute it because we respect honesty and hard work. There's an OSU syllable attachment that you get for every class. Let's just say it applies for this class without me having to talk about it. The link to it is there. And in it, there's some things like if you have some learning disabilities where you need more time to take a test, or you want to take it in the testing center, all you need to do is make sure that the testing center, the disabilities office, sends me that sheet. And you know what I'm talking about if you're one of these students. Sends me that sheet a week before classes, and I participate in it. I have some important dates down here. I've already got when the paper's due, March 1st. I'm going to really start working on the class paper a lot right away because I know this is the time when other professors aren't really doing all that much. So I'll try to smooth things out for you. So the paper is due March 1st. I do have 2 tentative dates for exam 1 and exam 2. I'm willing to change those if that's something y'all really don't worry about. I've got here drop dates, things like that, and when the final is scheduled. Remember, I want this online so that when I add something, we all know where those changes will be made. Is there anything that you think might not be on the syllabus that you want me to add to it? Anything you want me to articulate in greater detail? If you do, when looking at the syllabus, think of something and you want me to be more specific about a policy towards something, just send me an email and I'll add it to it. Let me just say some quick things about me. I'm born and raised in Barnwell, South Carolina. I went to Clemson University, just like Oklahoma State, South Carolina. Graduated with 8 people in my Ag Econ department. That Ag Econ department is no more. In South Carolina, country boys don't farm. They hunt and fish. You can't make money farming in South Carolina. Very few people do. But I like agriculture a lot, so I've worked on a lot of farms. I've worked on cow-calf farms, stocker farms, some feedlots, cutting horse ranches. I used to rodeo, team rope, calf rope, bareback ride. And I graduated from Clemson University in Ag Econ. And I just assumed, since I was an Eastern boy, I ended up back east. I said I want to live in one of the big ag states, at least once in my life. So I got my master's at K-State. I was there 4.5 years. And then I went back to North Carolina to get my PhD in economics. And then this was my first job after getting a PhD. I absolutely love it. I love this college. I really do. And it was always my dream to go back to South Carolina to be an Ag Econ professor at the Ag Econ department I was in. And I had that opportunity. The job offer was there. It was a good job. I'd be closer to my family. But I turned it down, and the main reason is I really like this college. I really like the students here. It's fun to teach. And this college is very rare because they care more about advising and teaching of students than any other place I've ever seen. And that's important to me, too. And so that's one reason I've stayed here. And quite frankly, I would have loved to have grown up here. I was like the only person in my whole town who ever rodeoed. I would have loved to be around y'all, but at the same time, I know if I was here, I couldn't compete. Rodeo taught me really bad. One thing to know about me, I have a painful nerve condition. My legs are hot all the time. That's why I wear shorts even in weather like this. And it hurts me when you come into my office to see me, probably the first thing I'm going to do is stand up. Now that's off-putting, isn't it? That's like what someone does when they're telling you to please leave. But the reason is sitting is painful for me. And so after sitting a while, when someone comes in, I'm going to stand up. And I pace a lot. Just standing still, being here, requires a little morphine. Standing still is often painful to me, so often pace a lot. Sometimes I have a cane with me. Sometimes I just don't look very well. But it's, so I'm a little weird in that way. But if you see me doing something weird and you're wondering, A, if it's a health condition, or B, if I'm a weirdo, just give me the benefit of the doubt and assume it's a nervous condition. I want to do one thing and then go. Is there anything I need to talk about? Yes?
Are you going to do PowerPoints, or are you just going to pull everything off the website directly?
The way I've got a number of different ways of working. When you go to the online textbook, there's a lot of videos, and that video is me walking around with my iPad doing stuff. I'll have classes where I basically do what's in the video. And what I generally do is like what I'll do on Wednesday. I tell you in advance, you want to download this thing and print them out. You come to class with a sheet or two, and then you take notes on it. If I don't tell you anything in advance, what's probably going to happen is you're going to come to class and we're going to do notes on the board. And a lot of times, and I'm glad you asked, let me say this. I do not waste your time in this class. Anything that we do in class is test material. I'm never going to talk about something irrelevant to class. I'm never going to have you do assignments that I won't later test you on. And so a lot of times what I do, like what I'm going to do Wednesdays, we're going to talk about things. I'll tell you what to write down, as you'll see in a minute. And then I'll bring up some questions. Like Wednesday, I'm going to have some true-false questions. And we're going to answer them together. What I'm going to tell you is, on your sheet of paper, write down this so you know where that document is, you know where the questions are, and then write down 1, is the answer true or false? 2, is the answer true or false? So it's a combination of you taking some sparse notes and stuff online that you put together. And everything we do in class leads up to homework problems. When I go to make the exam, it's based off the homework problem. So everything we do is always practice for an exam. Every class is a review session. And if there's one good quality about my teaching, I believe, is that you never have any doubt about what's going to be on the test. You know, most of the time, and my TAs laugh at this, you almost know exactly what the exam is going to look like. Now, a lot of you are going to do bad anyway because you just don't want to study, and that's fine. But there's never any doubt about what's going to be on the test. One thing I want to do today, I'm going to tell you you don't need to be able to read this exactly. On your piece of paper, so do you know what we're talking about? Just write Bastiat's demonstration. See the name up there, B-A-S-T-I-A-T, Bastiat's demonstration. Of course, you know where the link to this is too. I want you to know a few things about the author and a little bit about this narrative. This narrative gives you a really good idea what economics is all about. I want you to know his name, Bastiat. You don't need to know his first name, just name B-A-S-T-I-A-T. He was a French economist and journalist. I want you to know that, a French economist and journalist of the 19th century. Bastiat, French economist, journalist, 19th century. That's all you need to know about Bastiat. He's my favorite economist. This is a brief narrative from a book that he wrote called Economic Harmony. And what I want to do, I'm going to read the first part of this. I want you to listen to it. Then I'm going to scroll down, and there's one part of his notes that I'm going to relate to you. And I'm thinking at the end of this, you'll understand what the big picture of all this is. So I'm just starting reading right there. Let us take, by way of illustration, a man in the humble walks of life, a village carpenter, for instance, and observe the various services he renders to society and receives from it. We shall not fail to be struck with the enormous disproportion that is apparent. This man employs his day's labor in planting boards and making tables and chests of drawers. He complains of his condition, like you'll probably complain about your job. Yet in truth, what he does, he receives from society in exchange for his work. First of all, on getting up in the morning, he dresses himself, and he has himself personally made none of the numerous articles of which his clothing consists. Now look at what you wear. Raise your hand if you made the clothes that you're wearing today. They were made by other people, most probably strangers, people you don't know. Now, in order to put at his disposal this clothing, Americans must have produced cotton, Indians indigo, Frenchmen wool and flax, Brazilian hides, and all these materials must have been transported to various towns where they have been worked up, spun, woven, dyed, etc. You take any piece of article of your clothing and look at all the things that went into it, and then track where those materials came from, what country, and it's likely that your clothing consists of materials from 10 different nations. Again, strangers that you don't know. Then he breakfasts. In order to procure him the bread he eats every morning, land must have been cleared, enclosed, labored, manured, sown. The fruits of the soil must have been preserved with care from pillage, and security must have reigned among an innumerable multitude of people. The wheat must have been cut down, ground into flour, kneaded, and prepared. Iron, steel, wood, stone must have been converted by industry into instruments of labor. Some men must have employed animal force, others water power, etc. All matters of which, taken singly, presupposes a massive labor, whether we have regard to space or time of incalculable amounts. And think about what you have for breakfast and maybe what you have for lunch. and the thousands of people that were involved and all the things that they did that created your breakfast, that created your lunch. People you will never know. Production processes that you'll probably never understand. Strangers. In the course of the day, this man will have occasion to use sugar, oil, and various other materials and utensils. He sends his son to school, there to receive an education, which, although limited, nevertheless implies interior study and research and an extent of knowledge that startles the imagination. He goes out. He finds the street paved and lighted. A neighbor sues him. He finds advocates to plead his case, judges to maintain his rights, officers of justice to put the sentence in execution, all of which implies acquired knowledge and consequently intelligence and means of subsistence. He goes to church. It's a stupendous moment, and the book he carries thither is a monument, perhaps still more stupendous, of human intelligence. He is taught morals. He has his mind enlightened, his soul elevated. I'm going to skip a little bit. If our artisan undertakes a journey, he finds that in order to save him time and exertion, other men have removed and leveled the soil, filled up the valleys, hewed down mountains, united the banks of rivers, diminished friction, placed wheel carriages on blocks of sandstones or bands of iron, and brought the force of animals and the power of steam into subjection to human wants. And think about all the people involved that helped produce the car or truck that you drove here, that paved the street, that made the street lights. Thousands and thousands of people who did all this, it seems for you, but really for themselves. They don't know you. They're strangers. Now this is the important part, right here. And this is the part that I'm going to really want you to understand. And what you should write in your notes, it starts, it is impossible. Just write those 3 words. It is impossible. Draw a line to it and say, understand this paragraph. Paragraph, it is impossible. Write those 3 words, draw an arrow to it, say, understand this paragraph. And that's what I'm going today. It is impossible not to be struck with the measureless disproportion between the enjoyments which this man derives from society and what he could attain by his own unassisted exertions. Venture to say that in a single day he consumes more than he could himself produce in 10 centuries. Think about everything that's with you right now, from your computer to your shoes to your smartphone to the hair products that went into your hair to the soap that you hopefully bathe your body with, everything. And now imagine yourself, you got all those things in a society of thousands of people working together. Now imagine yourself as Robinson Crusoe, alone on an island. And let's just suppose there's lots of good raw materials on the island. And there's books about every bit of knowledge that we know now, but there are no other people, just you. And then try to imagine what you yourself, all alone, could produce. Ask yourself, of all the things that you consume just in the next hour, how long would it take you to produce those things by yourself? That's what he means when he says, venture to say that in a single day he consumes more than he could himself produce in 10 centuries. Today, all alone, you couldn't produce hardly anything that you consume. It would take your whole lifetime just to learn one little speck of the task involved in making blue jeans and backpacks and hats. You could never do it. Alone as one person, you have value, but you're nothing. You can produce nothing. And you're Robinson Crusoe. If you live, you're lucky. Now, you're that same person that you are right now. Nothing different about you. Except that there's everybody else here. And you can trade with them. Meaning, when you want food, you go to the grocery store. It's there. They thought about it in advance. The food's there. When you want gas, go to the gas station. It's there. All those people did those things, seemingly for you, but really for themselves. They were just trying to make a living. And how lucky you are. And that is the main source of our wealth. Each other. Trade. And to help you understand this paragraph. I'd say also write this. The main source of wealth is trade with other people. The main source of wealth is trade with other people, comma, strangers. The main source of wealth is trade with other people, comma, strangers. The people you know, your family, they probably produce nothing that you consume. They're just there for your own amusement almost. They don't produce your clothes, or your food, or the roads, or the cars. They may have done something, but it's small compared to all these other strangers. And that is where most of our wealth comes from. And that is what economics is all about. Trade with each other. That's all for now. If you want to come up and talk about something in the class, feel free to do so.
Watch